All right, I'm calling this regular meeting of the Midcoast Community Council to its regular meetings, January 28th, 7 p.m. Will the council members please introduce themselves, starting with Dan?
Dan Haggerty.
Chris Johnson.
Dave Olson.
Laura Stein.
Lisa Ketchum.
And council members Joel Janot and Aaron will not be able to make it tonight. And Nicholas.
Thank you guys for having me. How are we all doing tonight? So a couple things I wanted to just run through, give you guys an update on. First, the parallel trail. So the county is looking to execute a contract with BKF to do the plans, permits, and designs for the parallel trail. BKF is the same firm who did the Devil Slide coastal trail. So they have a lot of experience out here. They understand the community.
North or south parallel trail?
South. We only have funding to do the south. So we only have funding to do Miramar and El Granada up to Coronado Street. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking to execute a contract with BKF at the February 24th Board of Supervisors meeting. So that's the time frame we're looking for. They had a great proposal, and so we're looking to move forward with that. And once again, that'll be February 24th for the segment Murata Road to Coronado Street. Secondly, last time we were out here, we discussed a upcoming call for Surfers Beach. I had a one-on-one with the consultants the other day, just to find out where everything is, and actually we have an application ready to discuss with the Coastal Commission. So whereas before, and Chris has been a part of these, we have these status update calls that says, we discuss where we are with certain studies, what are the next phases. So where we're at right now is we have an application that is ready to be reviewed, we'll say, by Caltrans and then the Coastal Commission. So the consultants have put together an application, and then they'll be sending that out to Caltrans, and Caltrans will review it, and they'll want to make sure that it's in good standing with all their standards and regs. And then once they're good with it, then we would submit it to the Coastal Commission. And the next step would more than likely be, the commission will, my understanding is the way this works, right, this is my first CDP application, but my understanding is the way it works is similar with our planning department. You submit something, our planning department said, well, you're, either, hey, this looks great, it's ready to go, or you're missing X, Y, and Z. So the commission could very well come back to us and say, great, you have all of this, but you're missing this, and so we'll have to get supplemental information, and we probably have some discussion to figure out how are we going to obtain that information that we need to supplement the document. But one of the things we want to do is in mid to late February is the community meeting that we were discussing, because we don't plan on submitting the application won't be submitted tomorrow, right? And so with the fact that the commission will more than likely tell us that there are certain things that we need to supplement, and we don't know if Caltrans is going to be unsatisfied with certain things, this process is still going to go forward, but it's important to have that community meeting and discuss what this project is, the benefits. The thing that, and you've heard us talk about it on the phone, the most important thing is this is an interim project, right? This is a project that's going to buy us time to find out what is the long-term project. And so, that's really the point that we like to stress when it comes down to this.
A couple questions for you, Nicholas.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What is our first drop dead deadline? Because we've got, a certain deadline we have to meet to get the funding and the budget, mm-hmm. and for the permitting and stuff. I mean, I was just there 2 days ago. There's a huge new, just carved out section. I mean, it's basically just a wall now. It's just a wall right at the end of the riprap, where it's just been eddying around, and there's this. In fact, we could probably put a shopcrete in now because there's just like a wall right up next to the roadbed. I mean,
I'll go check that out.
It's really bad. And
can you pass the phone this way? Do you mind that? I'm sorry. It's been maybe 2 weeks since I've been out there, so I have no doubt that more damage has been done since I've been there.
They put up more barriers.
On the roadside, yeah, but I just feel that You know, these drop dead dates, we really need to know. And the other question is, I know this is difficult, Nicholas, but
No.
you know, could you ballpark a percentage of just your personal feeling? Are we gonna make, is this project gonna happen by the fall of 2015? Because if it doesn't, I think we need to know, like, what's the backup, where's the road gonna go? Because it's not gonna make it to next year. I mean, there's just no way. So what do you think the chances are that we'll make it? And if you know, if it doesn't look like we're gonna make it at the next public meeting, I think public needs to start hearing like what the backup plan is, because certainly we don't hold you responsible or supervisor. We know there's a lot of, you know, hoops to jump through, and we may not clear all these hoops. That's the way the politics works and government works. We understand that. But the reality is, if we don't make those hoops, what are we looking at here? I mean, that's, I feel like the public needs to know what's going to happen if and when we don't meet those deadlines.
Well, Caltrans declared an emergency, and then they do what they want.
They still need an
So-
emergency CDP in that case.
Yeah, so,
Get this after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. That's really true.
But we're gonna come out one morning and the road is not gonna be there.
No, exactly.
And then it's gonna be like, oh, we gotta get moving. It's gonna be, you know, a couple days before they can even like do anything, you know? So we're not gonna know until that morning when somebody gets up at 5 in the morning to go to work and the road is not there anymore.
Right. Not making our deadlines is not an option. It's never been an option for this project. That's why this project has been done in a way that is not typical to how we do all of our other projects. And we've always discussed this, right? I mean, we're moving faster than government typically moves on this project. And I know, you know, probably the community would have liked to have had a lot more say on this, but when it comes down to it, it's, you know, that highway's critical to the local quality of life and the local economy and the coastal access and recreation out here. So we've been moving faster than typical. Missing those deadlines are not an option. I'm not worried right now.
Okay.
When we get to a point where, I think we should be worried, you know, I will talk with Supervisor Horsley and we will let people know that this is the situation. But he and I talked about this a couple days ago, and not making deadlines is not an option. And at this point, we don't see any reasons, you know, as of the last conversation I had with him and with our consultants, we don't see, and Steve Monowitz, we don't see any reason as to why we can't hit our deadlines. So that's where we are right now.
Thanks, Nicholas. I appreciate that
Of course.
attention.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, we'll keep you guys posted. Dan? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Dave,
Dave?
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I'm just wondering, at any part of the conversation, has it ever come up to have something in between riprap and you know, something a little bit like now that might not be a interim solution, but kind of an immediate Band-Aid that
No.
could even last through the winter? Has that come up? Has it been mentioned by anybody?
You know, that was an idea we had over a year ago, which was, you know, get some treated wood out there maybe that would protect it for a year. But after that year, we'd be in the position we are right now. We wouldn't be any closer to identifying a long-term solution. We wouldn't have a way to protect that highway past that year. We would have spent months and months and months of political capital and funding and resources to protect it for one season. And it wasn't really, that's you know, we can't do that every year. So, you know, the Coastal Commission was adamant that they wanted an interim project. They wanted an interim solution that would buy time to find a permanent solution. And as the regulatory agency, we listened, and you know, we listened to them, and we're doing what they requested. And you know, frankly, it's a really good plan. Provide an interim solution and identify what the long-term plan needs to be for this area, for transportation and recreation and access to maintain quality of life and everything else out here.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss the schedule with everyone. I know this is a little bit out of the conversation we typically had. Now you and I had discussed it a little bit. So there are three big meetings coming up. There's the let me provide one more update, and then that'll be a good transition into this. The congestion management project, you guys have heard about this for some time, and we had told you guys, we're gonna release the new round of designs in December. Now, I spoke with our consultants the other day, and they are going to be ready by February 18th to release the, draft preliminary planning study. And one of the conversations I had with them, and Kendall Flynn, who we brought on for the outreach and engagement for this project, was what if we don't release just the designs, which are just pictures, right? They're just the pictures. What if we don't release those, and we release the draft preliminary planning study on February 18th? Now, we're in favor, this is an idea that we're in favor of, because one of the things we ran into last time was we released the designs, people saw the pictures, but they didn't have the data or the information to support what they were looking at. And it really caused a problem at that first public engagement meeting. By releasing the preliminary, the draft preliminary planning study, what it will be is it will be an image of the designs, and then it will be all the information to support it. It will tell you approximately how much money would be needed. It will tell you how long it will take to implement this. It will tell you the environmental constraints that each project will face. It will tell you the impact on the traffic. It's going to give you the full picture. And so one of the things we would like to do is abandon the idea of just releasing just the images and waiting essentially 2.5, 3 weeks and giving you the full, the draft report, which is going to give you the full picture. Now, I've been telling you guys January 2015 we were going to release those, and so I wanted to let you know, hey, this is what we would propose, and want to know what you guys think about that.
Well, it's been my experience that people today don't read, so I don't think that many people are going to read that much extra stuff, but I personally don't. I think that's a good idea. I mean, having the full packet all together. I do think, what you said of just having images, people are going to seize on that and without the meat behind it. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's been my experience. People don't really, especially if there's pictures, they're going to look at the pictures and they're not going to read the Appendix B, definition of LOS type of stuff. So, but I think it's a good idea.
Dan, any comment?
I have to say I'm always for early information. When things are delivered the last minute, there's less time for the community to digest it. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. I always advocate for whatever can be available, the sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Question I have is, what's the plan? Two questions. One is, when will it be coming to the MCC? And number two is, what is it scheduled for the Board of Supervisors or wherever you're taking it next?
Mm-hmm. Great questions, and actually a great kind of little transition into what I was going to hit on, but I'll just hit on it for the congestion management, and it kind of hits on what you're saying, Dan. So what we'd like to do is release it on February 18th, and then hold a community engagement meeting on March 11th, which is a regularly scheduled MCC meeting night, but it doesn't conflict with other boards and boards or bodies. And given that the MCC has been playing such a big role in this, I thought it would be a good idea to utilize a regularly scheduled MCC night for the community engagement meeting for this. And so this would give 3 weeks. This would give 3 weeks for the community to see the designs, review the documents, and which 3 weeks is a
that's
long
great.
time.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a real long time.
Yeah.
So hopefully that would, ease the concerns about early information, right? We'd be giving adequate time for people to review all that. And so obviously we would need the MCC's okay to utilize March 11th for the community engagement meeting of that. And
Yeah, so, sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Well, to your first question about in 2 parts or wait for the full document, I think that even if people aren't interested in reading the text, some people will read the text and then be able to explain the question, answer the questions that people have. So, and I would like to see the full material there and understand it. And since there's plenty of time to digest that before the public is going to comment on it, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't even answer that question. Yes, I would definitely want to have the full packet of information.
Okay, great.
So I would like the full packet also. We're really getting dangerously close to the future agendas item on the agenda. So I think I'm going to try and defer actually setting it, but I'll raise the issue that we had originally hoped to have Connect the Coast side on the 25th of February, but they had some concerns they might not be ready, and therefore they might be moving out to March 11th. Laura, have you heard anything more about their readiness
No.
for that?
Nothing.
You do have a little more?
I have an update on that. And
Okay,
so-
great.
So here's my segue, right, the one I've been telling you about. It's finally here. So what we were thinking was, Connect the Coast side won't be ready for March 11th.
Oh, not March 11th. They were talking about end of February as well.
Yeah,
Oh, no?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
It's gonna be ready for like April 8th.
Okay.
Ah,
And Plan Princeton will be ready for March 25th.
okay.
So what we're actually, so what we're thinking is March 11th would be congestion management, March 25th would be Plan Princeton, and April 8th would be Connect the Coast side.
Okay, which may conflict with the parks meeting we're trying to set up, so we'll work it in there somewhere.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is just kind of what we were thinking as far as
One
scheduling.
more time, Connect the Coast Side,
Oh.
April 8th, Plan Princeton, what?
Plan Princeton, March 25th,
25.
and then Connect the Coast side, April, oh wait, you already
I
said
got
that.
that, what's the third one?
Oh,
Congestion
congestion
management.
management on March 11th.
311.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So we'll cover that under future agendas, but that seems very doable.
Okay, great. And then, yeah, that was,
Do these all need special venues?
yes, but you know, Kendall can take care of March 11th, which is congestion management, and, you know, Kendall will, actually, you know what, Kendall will be involved with all of these. So why don't you, Kendall, and I work together,
Okay.
and we'll lock that down. And,
Okay, great.
You know, we'll take care of all of that. And then, just want to make sure I'm actually done before I say I'm done. I'm done, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Captain Mike, did you have something to present?
Hi, good evening, members of the council, Mr. Calderon. It's nice to be back here in the Midcoast after having been gone for a couple of months over in the East Bay, working on a couple of different events that have taken place over there. I had an opportunity to look at our year-end data, primarily for collisions here on the Midcoast, comparing 2014 with 2012 and 13. And the accident picture has stayed relatively consistent. We had 28 collisions that took place in the Midcoast this past year. Fortunately, none of those were fatalities, but 7 of those did involve injuries. What we're seeing still is a relatively consistent positive factor, and that being unsafe turning movement, followed then by speed, and then third by right-of-way and DUI. They're pretty much tied for third place there. We have stepped up our enforcement efforts here on the Midcoast, and we use a special enforcement team that augments our patrol officers that work primarily the Highway 1 corridor. And in the past year, they've issued 73 citations, 11 verbal warnings. Of course, it's not about how many tickets we issue. That's really not our focus. It's about trying to change people's behavior, trying to get them to drive more safely. And so we use a combined effort of enforcement, education, and engineering in that capacity. From an engineering perspective, I just signed off this past week on an approval request that came through San Mateo County for a speed bump on Coral Reef. So that has been something that's been in the works, and Public Works has been very responsive to the needs and concerns of the people who live along that particular stretch of roadway. And it did qualify for consideration for a speed bump. So now that's going in. I don't exactly know when they're going to break ground, so to speak, but that is coming there for Coral Reef. And we continue to be a strong partner in Connect the Coast Side, working to plan for many years ahead for the traffic management here in the coastal region. So that concludes my presentation. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that might exist.
I have,
Anybody on the council? Laura?
oh, I just needed to clarify. You said there were the 3 top issues and you were talking quickly. So I had unsafe turning, right-of-way DUI.
And speed is factored in there as well.
Oh, and speed.
And it's been consistent with what we've seen over the past year.
Great, thank you.
Captain Naskowicz, thank you for coming. I know everybody has it like, hey, could you look out for this thing? But I've been waiting for you to come back for a few months because there's an issue that I would just like to put in your ear for your officers to think about, and that is the use of the shoulder by motorcycles, especially on crowded days. As a cyclist, you know, that's my only spot there, or that's our only spot. And I often see motorcycles who feel that because they can fit there, they can use that. And they come roaring up, and there's nowhere for a cyclist to go, or let alone a pedestrian. It's quite common, especially on the weekends, when out-of-town people come and they just want to, you know, I am on a motorcycle, why should I sit in this traffic? Sure. You know, there's no lane to split because it's only a 2-lane highway. And then I guess the other thing is, as a lifelong motorcyclist with an M1 certification, if you do, you know, make contact with a motorcyclist, I guess I would ask that you definitely check their M1 certification, because what I'm seeing is behavior that doesn't strike me as a educated motorcyclist. Not just the driving in the shoulder, but
Sure.
other bike handling and stuff. So those two things that we're having, I think we're only going to have more cyclists coming to the coast, and we really need to protect people in the shoulder areas, especially since we don't yet have the full parallel trail yet, and the bridge is out, and people are having to come out to the highway, the bridge over down at Half Moon Bay. So if you could just think about that, put that on your big list of stuff of motorcycles in the shoulder.
Absolutely, I'll pass that along to my my patrol squads. What I also would say is, I think we can predict with some degree of certainty, certainly as the weather warms up and certainly seasonal periods when traffic begins to increase here. But if you're seeing that in a particular area, that's not above something that you should be able to get on your phone, call 911, and alert our staff that might be out there, that might be tied up on another call, just to let them know, hey, they need to get out here, and we'll be able to enforce that. So from an ongoing perspective, it's certainly a message that I want to carry forth with my staff. But again, from an immediate public safety perspective, that's something that we're certainly going to want to know. And while we wouldn't likely get the person that did it as they pass you on your cycle, it certainly gives us an opportunity to make sure that we get our troops get our folks that are out there deployed appropriately and can be able to respond to those concerns.
Thank you very much.
Dan?
Thank you for coming, Captain. The speed bumps, you said that the one at Coral Reef qualifies. What's the qualifying factor?
It has to be considered a residential roadway. And as an example, we've been dealing with a number of concerns over the years on Sunshine Valley Road. And it has to do with density requirements, and this is something that's in the vehicle code. It's nothing that we can adjust to say, we agree if there's a speed problem, we need to address it, but certain engineering facets just are not going to be allowed. And because Coral Reef qualified based on the density requirements, and off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what those are, but there has to be so many homes, residences within a specified, I believe it's a half a mile of uninterrupted roadway from like side streets. So it lended itself toward being able to have that particular engineering feature, whereas some of the more rural roadways, we wouldn't be able to put those in. And from a public safety perspective, I could certainly see where people have a concern, but conversely, if the county or the state were to just arbitrarily put one there, from the sake of trying to slow speed down, there could be some just excessive liability for people who would be traveling at a certain speed, hit those speed bumps, and travel out of control, run into other vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists. So there's some very firm criteria which we in the Highway Patrol don't set, but which those who work in public works, who work in traffic engineering, are very sensitive toward and follow to the letter of the law. So we've been able to use signage, we've been able to use those radar signs. We have other engineering methods that we can employ, but putting speed tables or speed bumps aren't always the right fit based on the type of roadway that we do in.
Okay. But this is off of Highway 1, is on Coral Reef, right?
That is correct.
So the request is initiated through the Department of Public Works.
Yes. Caltrans is not involved in this project. It is strictly through the San Antonio County Public Works Department.
Lisa, do you have any questions? Nicholas, is there any chance you can track down the DPW information on that for us? Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right. I think Leonard had a question.
Actually, right now I have three.
You have to go to no one will hear you in the.
I think somebody wants to hear.
We'll let him in. To tag on to Chris's comments, and by the way, I still have my motorcycle endorsement for some reason. Another problem on a lot of nice weather days is the motorcycles in clusters of 20 to 100 that seem hell bent on making as much noise as they can. So I'd like to see some noise tickets written. Second thing is, how are you doing in slowing down the traffic on Alhambra? It seems to me it's still a big problem. And the third thing is, can you, an hour later, give me the section number on speed bumps so I can read it? Sure. And by the way, I actually have an announcement for multiple under one other public official.
To answer your question on Alhambra, I would certainly opine that speed is a problem on Avenue Alhambra. And so while we are out there, again, I don't have the resources to be out there 24/7 and having that presence. I can't tell you off the top of my head how many speed citations that we've written on there, but it is certainly a concern for me and for my staff, and I want to ensure that my officers are out there and that they're having a presence and trying to slow people down, because the roadway itself does lend itself to people picking up speed at a pretty good clip. And again, when they're out there, it's like anything. If you see an officer, that's when people will slow down. The minute they get a call, they're out on another service call or responding to something, an accident, say for instance on Highway 1, and then the speed picks right back up. So I'll make sure that that is certainly an ongoing area of emphasis. I'm not sure if I have your email address. We switched recently from GroupWise to an Outlook system to get caught up with everybody else in the 21st century. So I'll give you my card. If you could send me an email tonight, I will send that information to you tomorrow. And it's pretty basic, but it just follows as to what constitutes a local roadway. And with that comes the different tools that the county or Caltrans would have available to them, and speed bumps being one of them.
I'm sorry, just if I could just jump in.
Sure.
Per Leonard's comment about Alhambra, and I certainly understand, resources are limited, but it seems to me that one tactic that I've seen law enforcement use in other places that might work on Alhambra because of the line of sight and even from Highway 1 is, parking an empty squad car just along the side, because people come over this rise and they see a squad car. And they don't, and they just catch it right, and boom, there's the decrease in speed that we're talking about. And all the way down from the other end of Alhambra at that stoplight, they see a police car just sitting there, from a quarter mile, half mile away. That might be, and even you can see it from over on Highway 1 if it's in the right place on Alhambra. It could have, multiple good effects, just an empty squad car sitting there.
If I had an empty squad car, I would put it out there.
I think there's a yard in Princeton where you can find it.
I probably have officers without cars versus having an empty car, so maybe I can drop one off. But we really, unfortunately, we had a major directive several years ago under the Schwarzenegger administration, and we've had to significantly reduce our fleet in highway patrol. So literally at shift change, I have people who are stuck in the office, can't deploy to beats until certain cars come out. And in the last month, I've had 3 cars that were wrecked in the course of what we do that shouldn't have happened, but we're waiting to get those replaced. And unfortunately, once you wreck a car on the highway patrol, it's not a gift. You don't get one back relatively soon. So it's different when you run one out and miles, the wheels fall off. But when you run into something, you kind of get punished. So that's where I'm at right now as far as, I could pull a red car out there. I'm not sure how that'll happen. But I can certainly reach out to my counterparts in the sheriff's office as well. And again, it doesn't matter what badge, what uniform we wear. We're all out here for public safety, and they write tickets, we write tickets, they make arrests, as do we. It doesn't matter to me as to, whose presence is out there. If we can slow people down, if we can save lives, reduce collisions, that's really what I want to emphasize on. So I'll make sure I reach out to the sheriff's department as well and let them know that we've had these discussions and this dialogue. And again, it's not a problem that we're going to be able to say overnight there's not going to be any more speeding cars on Avenue Alhambra, but it's certainly an area of emphasis and focus, and I want to make sure that my staff, some of whom, particularly the newer officers, are pretty transient in nature. They come into Redwood City, they work in other places as soon as they get a little bit of seniority, that there's this certain consistency with what we're doing as far as enforcement out here on the coast, and particularly in the Midcoast community.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Leonard, did you say have something as a GCSD or SAMRAP?
Yep. county parks staff on the Parks and Rec needs and desires survey, and I think that's going to be, it's scheduled to be mailed out somewhere around a week to a week and a half from now, with a real short turnaround, like a week, because somebody has decided that if you give people a month, you don't get the things back. But if it arrives and it says, you got to send this back within a week, it's going to get done. So people should watch for that starting somewhere around a week or so from now. And it's, you know, the major chance to get as much community input as we can on what people want to see and in what order.
Great, thank you. All right, I believe that's the end of government reports, so we're on to public comment. I have one public comment slip, and that's you again, Leonard, so you're up. I got one from you for 7th Street. Do you want to speak up?
I could vote on there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Okay.
That's all right.
Save you paper.
Thank you.
As I was talking to a community member who apparently doesn't want to be named, who last night who sent in comments on one of the agenda items that's on the agenda tonight, it occurred to me that literally for the last few years, the council has never made a change to a letter as a result of public comment during the meeting. And I mean, to the point where I actually asked that community member, you know, I said, I don't even see any reason for me to speak during the item because nothing I say is going to affect the letter that's submitted. And, you know, that's just wrong. And you need to be open to modifying draft letters based on public comment during the meeting. And it used to be that way, but for some reason recently it's not that way. And so I'm asking you to keep that in mind for all agenda items where you're looking at draft letters to submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
The first thing I want to say is the improvements that they did to Sunshine Valley Road for somebody who drives it almost every day has been phenomenal. It's, you don't feel like, it's amazing. It's an amazing difference and improvement. Thank you for all your work on that. One of the things I'd like you to look at are bioswales. A lot of them have been going in. I'm a full supporter of the bioswales. I think it's a terrific idea. However, one went in on Carlos Street in Moss Beach, which is the frontage road parallel to the highway, in front of all the businesses there, a historic building, and all of the property owners were very poorly informed that it was going to occur or that the impacts it would have on, it's reduced their parking, it's reduced handicap access, and it's a very serious trip hazard right now. The curbs are at different heights. It overfills with water. The bark all blows out and clogs the drain. It's my understanding Public Works is closing the permit with the contractor on the project. However, there do need to be some serious improvements there for safety. There's no handicap access to those businesses, and part of the sidewalk doesn't even continue. It just stops with a bunch of broken off tree roots. So I would like to propose more review of when these bioswales are going in and where they're going in. On the project we're going to talk about next, unrelated, 2 bioswales have gone on each side of the street, making 7th Street even more narrow than it's ever been before. There's no parking now. And there's a sewer pump at the end, so it's really difficult now for the sewer pumps to, the sewer trucks to get in and out, because you can't back up onto the highway. So I'd like to have more review and better public notice to any property owner who's going to have a bioswale in their front yard. This is the third, I've heard 3 people have complained to me now. So even if it takes the county knocking on a door, the people should be getting a set of plans to know what these impacts are. I have a lot of photos. If anybody would like to, I can help work on this situation. I can share with you the photos and what's been going on with this particular one, which is an awful situation. Thank you.
While we can't address it as a council, I will say that the bioswales along 7th and elsewhere in Montera and parts of Moss Beach, not the one on Carlos, were presented by County DPW at the MCC, and I believe they did a reasonably good job of notification on those.
There's just no parking.
All right, any other public comment? Okay.
Yes, actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just want to make an announcement that on February 12th, Thursday, the Coastside Design Review Committee will be reviewing several projects, including one in Miramar that raised significant public comment at the last CDRC meeting earlier this month. So if anybody's interested, the general meeting starts at 1:30, and the Miramar project that was on the docket last month and has been continued to this month is on the agenda for 3:15 p.m. if anybody's interested in. It's a house being built on, what is that street?
Magellan.
Magellan.
Thank you. One of those Spanish guys. Yeah, it's on a smaller lot, substandard lot, right next to the Miramar. It's gonna be the only. Yeah, yes. Yep.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
First thing is I want to, I apologize.
It's all right.
I'm used to her being the chair. Anyhow, you can get more information on the MCC website. If you go to the calendar, right under the calendar, Lisa has kindly provided a link. It'll say Coastside Design Review, and the link will take you directly to Planning and Building page. The only trick is on the left-hand side, you have to click on Archives, and that will take you to the agenda. Took me a very long time to figure that out. And then, well, the real issue here with this particular dwelling is it's 3 stories high, and it's directly behind the restaurant on the ocean.
Directly adjacent to the open space, the Murata open space.
Right. And you already said where it's going to be in the time.
Yep. Yep, 3:15.
All right, any other council members?
Tagging on to that, to Nicholas, the direction Laura gave about going to the design review website to see the agenda, and I said this at design review meeting when Dennis was there, and I asked for that page to include what would be the early referral, the description of the project and the plans in digital form.
Yes.
So this would be similar to the planning commission and the zoning hearing officer, and those, they have a staff report by each topic so you can see what it's about. And the design review committee, there is nothing to tell what these projects are about, and this ties in also with the MCC not receiving these early referrals, so we not only don't have a hard copy, but we don't have a digital copy, and the ideal thing would be is if those were posted, the digital copy of the early referral were posted on the design review website, so that anybody could find it
Yes,
there, and then we
absolutely.
can just link to it.
Or it could be on
And then
planning, so.
also they could post their occasion, like I say, on planning commission, they'll have the letter of decision or whatever, they could put stuff there that'd be useful to the public, that's all. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, hearing no other requests for public comment, I'm going to close public comment. Move on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. We have the minutes for the January 12th meeting, the minutes for the January 17th special meeting, the annual retreat, and the updated MCC policies and procedures, which were discussed at the retreat. Does anybody want to take any of those off the consent agenda? All right, can I hear a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as noted.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0. All right, we are now on to our regular agenda. First item is the coastal development permit for a guardrail installation and partial fence removal at 7th Street in Montera. This is the county Department of Public Works initiated CDP based on a request that the MCC made and worked on for quite a while. Lisa Ketchum has drafted some comments, and we'll have a short presentation on that.
Oh, yeah. One second. So the draft letter is posted on the website, and there are copies out on the table, and it's very short. Basically, we're only asking for question whether I should go through the pictures first, or, anyway, let's look at the pictures. So this is the view from the west end of 7th Street. That's looking south. Unique rocky shoreline, just beautiful. And that's looking north from 7th Street. You can see the Marine Walk there, and in the distance you can see Point San Pedro. In the letter, we asked for 2 shrubs to be removed. This is the invasive pittosporum here and down there. And they're severely pruned now, but if that should ever stop, these shrubs would block this whole view. And plus they're invasive, and they've spread, anyway, whatever. I just want to point that out, because those are the 2 shrubs we mentioned as what we're asking for. Okay, so that sets the scene.
I will also mention that the proposed fence that's in the public right-of-way runs basically right through this chair and through this bush, as best we can tell. We're not surveyors, but I believe that's where it's going to run, as projected. Sorry, that's our 4B item, never mind.
Well, the same pictures for both. So, yeah, they're asking for the new fence, which would be parallel to their front yard and 7th Street, to be set out 5 feet into the right-of-way. And so basically that gravel path that goes off and goes to the north, the fence would be then on this side of it, cutting off access to the Marine Walk over there. And if you wanted to get there, you'd have to tromp over the bushes.
Lisa, this gravel area and these chairs, this is all public space?
Yeah, the chairs are gone now. Hold on just a second. I did this wrong.
But the answer is yes, it is in the public right-of-way.
It is in the building.
Part of it's the Marine Walk, part of it is 7th Street right-of-way.
I got it. Oh, I lost my cursor. I'm sorry. Why is it doing this? All right.
They want to put there for the public. I should say it's not county design.
So here's the problem. This is the end of 7th Street. So you have this hedge and this wall blocking the whole thing off, everything you're just looking at. And the arrow shows the width of the right-of-way. It goes, there's this double wide gate, and then there's this single person size gate. And what they're proposing in the fence removal, the first permit, is to only take out this much of the encroaching fence and leave this part. And so that would encompass this 5-foot encroachment to connect with the new fence. And the fence is above the legal height limit. You're only allowed 4 feet in the front yard. It's not in their front yard, it's in the street, and also it impedes their driveway access. They have tandem parking over here, and it's kind of in the way for that.
Lisa, is that stone planter area, is that mostly in the right of way?
Yeah, and that is, was put in by the neighbors at 123 7th Street, and that basically what it does is creates a level area instead of the natural slope that was there. And the reason for it was because, as you can imagine, they have terrific stormwater runoff on this street. It's really an issue. And so previously, I guess, the water would run across this dirt area, wash the dirt into the neighbor's yard. They didn't like it, so this was the solution. That's all that's for.
And there was an encroachment granted by DPW in 2002, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yes, that basically that whole semicircular thing is an encroachment that is allowed by the county.
So this is from flying out over the coastline. And it sort of shows you where everything is. 7th Street coming down, you can see that rock planted there, you can see the fence blocking off and the viewing area and the hedge, the hedge, it's all there. And then, okay, so this is the hedge that we asked to have them removed, and the view behind it. So that's it on the pictures, and the letter's very short. It just says, we support the application to remove the fence and put in the guardrails with the modification that they remove the entire portion of the fence that encroaches into 7th Street right-of-way, and also to remove those non-native shrubs and plant something that doesn't grow any taller than the guardrail. Are there any questions?
So I did try to look up this, this PLN number, so I did try, but I was not successful, so.
Nicholas has heard from me about how hard it is to find those on the county.
May I join that group?
And as I explained, I am also in that group, so.
Okay, well, I feel a lot better then.
I do have a copy of it. It took me 15 minutes to find.
It's posted on our website with the meeting materials.
Yeah.
I did read the, what did
So
I
it has a
read?
picture of the plan there too.
I read the
Yeah.
project description, yes.
Well,
What I-
it's all there.
The whole plan is there.
Right, well, the question I have is, was there ever a CDP or other permit issued for the installation of the white fence in the first place?
The only evidence we have is a letter from the 70s where Public Works writes to the then property owner and refers to a encroachment permit. There is no actual encroachment permit, but the fact that county correspondence acknowledges that this permit had been issued in the past is enough for the county to say, yes, it was. But that said, all the county has to do is revoke it. They don't need, it's just, they do it all the time.
Which is what we requested happen and which they have followed through.
And who will be doing the removal of the white fence, and who will be paying for it if it should happen?
DPW.
Right, so I mean, these are where linking my questions.
Well, can I
mean, so-
qualify my answer?
Yes.
The fence is already leaning against it's just a matter of picking it up, throwing the truck. That's not the expensive part. The expense would be in installing the guardrails.
Understood, but a truck is gonna have to come out, some people are gonna have to do it, and it's gonna have to be hauled off somewhere. And so I just, without an actual permit, I mean, I'm just a little annoyed that, that the taxpayers in the county are gonna be paying for this thing that shouldn't be there. And there's no repercussions for the landowner having, walled off and hedged off a public view for decades, and now at no cost to them is having their things that they had up there that they benefited from removed at no cost to them. It just seems that there's no repercussions at all for this landowner.
Well, they did, according to the county, have the official encroachment permit. So they did build it at their expense. The county will remove it, but as Lisa says, I was just out there yesterday. That fence is all but fallen over at this point. So Lisa's right. The real expense is the guardrail, which was never there before, so.
Now, still linking my thoughts together. Okay, so, I mean, I'm still not satisfied on the permit, but I'll live with that. And I understand the fence is falling down, but then to see, like, right following this, that, again, there's no repercussions. The landowner still wants to grab 5 feet of the right-of-way so they can wall off the marine walk. I mean, it doesn't seem to me that.
I think it's helpful to keep the 2 permits separate.
Yeah.
And I know I just showed one set of pictures, but let's comment on the 1 permit, and then we'll comment on the other. And so on this permit, the county's position and the applicant's position is they have an encroachment permit for that fence. They have not done anything bad. And we've been trying for over 2 years, going on 3 years, to get this removed. So this seems like real good news. And the cost of throwing out a truck, it seems, it just doesn't seem worth mentioning.
Oh, we should put a cost on the time. The time
The time and the permitting and all the county and the negotiations and
Yes,
the
that's what I'm
meetings.
thinking about.
All of Nicholas's time.
It's
Yes,
like-
there you
Yeah,
go.
so, I mean, if the goal is to get the thing removed without anybody getting sued, I think maybe we're doing okay at this point.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a celebration that we're this far.
And I'm happy about it, I'm just saying, like,
I hear
as with other violators that we've had,
Here's
I
the-
don't have any confidence that, you know,
Right, but they're not in violation.
I think
although we don't have the permit.
the
they-
thing to be concerned about here
There you go.
is we want the whole fence removed from
Right.
7th Street. That's the issue,
Yeah.
not just
So,
part
not
of it.
just part of it.
Right?
That's
And
the
so
essence
let's-
of our comment.
Let's not distract or, you know, I mean, it's like, focus totally on that.
All right. Anybody else have comments on the letter, corrections, changes?
I just,
Sorry,
go right
were you,
ahead, finish
were you
up.
not finished? Sorry.
I just wanted to point out that I did look at the project description, and several places it had crossed out that the bollards and, but not entirely through the entire document. There are several places still in the document where it references 4 yellow metal bollards, and I don't know if that's, you know, we've discussed it before where we were talking about the Costanera, and we couldn't find the actual agreement where that allowed them to use the parking lot, and that wasn't a big deal. We can't find the actual permit here, and that's not a big deal. And I'm just, I get fixated on these details. It mentions the yellow bollards multiple times still in this document that's not crossed out. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that that is recognized, and we're not going to have an issue of that 10 years down the line where somebody says, oh, but look, it says yellow bollards right here in the project description.
Yeah.
Presume the bollards were out at the cliff edge, and they decided not to put them there?
That's my understanding.
I thought when I
Yeah,
read it,
we,
they weren't.
I caught that in the review too, and we just decided not to put it in the letter. If you feel like we should mention it in the
You
letter.
just put it in the email to Mike Schaller.
Okay.
Yeah, that, I don't, it doesn't need to be in the letter, but I
Yeah,
do
it's just,
want
his-
to point that out, that
Right.
Yeah, they made an effort to cross it out, they didn't catch it everywhere. That's correct. All right, Laura?
I just want to emphasize, the fence encroachment serves no legitimate right-of-way purpose. That's in our letter, and I think that says a lot. And I also want to encourage Lisa to continue her fight. This has gone for a long time, and I'm like really proud and happy that you've hung in there. And the community is really going to benefit from this. I mean, we've all been out there, and so this is really exciting. Not to say, Chris, I fully understand your frustration. It's a matter, and I'm learning this from Lisa, keep your eye on the goal. So,
no, I'm thrilled. This is going to be awesome when that fence is gone. It's going to be great.
So, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Karen.
Dana, did you have any comments, suggestions? All right, then I'll open it up for public comment. Karen, did you want to speak to the draft letter on 4A?
I did. Number one, I'm just curious why the county, with a new permit in 2015, would allow part of the fence to stay at 6 or 7 feet tall when that's not allowed, period. So I am asking, and I agree that the entire fence should be removed to the property line. That would leave one small portion where you can see the ivy in that photo. I very much support this. I thank you guys for all your work. I do want to reiterate, I tried to get this fence down in 2002. It's been a long, long time. As for the, so we're only talking about this one. I want to keep them separate, so I'm
Right.
sorry. Yellow mallards, and I agreed with you about correcting the plans, but that could just be a subnote. So my other question would be, we're going to send these comments to Public Works, and they've already created a permit with a violation in it. That raises a concern for me. And to back up the request here for the hedges in the rear to be removed, if they were not maintained, that Lisa pointed out, there's a pending violation on that homeowner right now for growing an entire hedge that used to be maintained like that between the two properties, between his neighbors and himself. And it's a frightening, scary, messy, view-blocking hedge, and they grow fast. And so the attention to that, I think, is very important as well. Thank you very much.
Leonard?
planned on speaking on this item, but something Karen said concerns me about the county apparently being willing to leave part of the 7-foot fence there. That can't be allowed. Even your side and rear yard fences, I believe, are limited to 5 feet. If that's wrong, it's 6 feet. And within the front 20 feet, because of any property, you have a 20-foot minimum setback for the house. So in that 20 feet, your fence height is limited to 3 feet, I believe.
Or,
Okay, so you can't even have a 5-foot fence in the setback distance along the side. So those county requirements need to be rigidly enforced everywhere, including on this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's why we have requested they remove the entire fence in the right of way. So it will go from 6 feet to 0 if we are successful. All right. Does anybody else want to say anything about the letter? All right, can I hear a motion, please?
Can you send it on big red paper?
it's going by email.
Oh, I would like to make a motion that we approve the letter as written.
I will second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, carries 5-0. Now, 4B is a related item, but this one is coming from the property owner, the Westerfields, and they have requested building a 4-foot fence, which is along the 7th foot, which is along the 7th Street front, so it's the front of their property, so it's an appropriate height. It is a reasonable fence, it's an open wire fence. However, they've requested it be built in the public right-of-way. So we have we have a letter addressing that as well, again, from Lisa. Lisa, do you want to say anything about it, or let the letter stand for itself?
Yeah, we showed you in the pictures where this fence would come out to, and there's no legitimate right-of-way purpose to have this fence in the street. And I pointed out the shrubs also that we're asking to be removed in number 3, so that's all. Does anybody have any questions?
Chris, Dan, Laura?
No.
In other words, the fence they're proposing would be fine if it was on their property.
Yeah, well, this goes to what I was speaking of just a couple of minutes ago. I read the project description on this too, and the Westerfield's position is basically, oh, the marine walkway is unnavigable, it's falling into the ocean, and so, we're just gonna put this fence up because nobody's using it, it's not safe anyways. And with violations that we're already hearing, they want to now build this new fence to block off the marine walkway. That's what the purpose of that fence serves. And yeah, that rankles me a little bit. I mean, they've already had this huge fence blocking it off. They have the marine walkway all to themselves. They wrote a letter in the project description saying how the marine walkway is bare. I can't believe those. I've never seen that marine walkway. I didn't even know it was there. And it looks, granted, I'm sure you can't walk all the way, 5 miles up the beach, but even if you could walk around, those people just don't want people on the public marine walkway in front of their big picture window. And yeah, that to me, that goes to the whole crux of the Coastal Act and what we're trying, Lisa, what you're trying to do here. And so, yeah, I just feel annoyed that they're coming back trying to, thank you for writing this letter. There's no reason, in my opinion, there's no reason for this fence to even be considered to be put in the public right-of-way.
I fully support what you're saying.
All right. Dan, you have any comments, questions?
No?
All right, I will take public comment. Karen, you're up first.
Okay, since 2002, the marine walk, you can walk it. It's very broad, it's very wide. The applicant has let ice plant, which is all over the path, and has stopped maintaining it since we've been trying to get some movement to remove the fence. So he's made it appear to be very tiny when it's very large. I would strongly recommend that this permit, that you request that it's completely denied for these reasons, for the reasons that you list. If you were to do a fence, there are other fence designs that could create the same look, but would have fence posted every 8 feet rather than 4 feet. So there are, which would cause less harm to the cliff. Again, I believe this should be fully denied. Also, given that there's a pending violation, it's my understanding when there's a pending violation on a property, they're not even allowed to apply for a new permit until it's resolved. We also, not only is that an issue, there's a pending permit with the California Coastal Commission for a second-story addition to the existing house. So there's many things that are just not completely, there's too many pieces and too many permits. There's 4, 5, a violation, second-story addition, the fence in the county right-of-way, and the county's permit. So 4 different issues going on. The materials that they would use, I'm concerned about using pressure-treated posts on the cliffside there with water runoff and drainage into the earth. I think there could be something done even more modest than what they're proposing if a fence is all to be done strictly on the property, on or within the property lines. I'm sorry, I have to go through my notes because I kind of commingled them. Now, I'm kind of might be going back a little bit, but I am concerned that the fence, in the windstorms that we had a few weeks ago, the fence is swaying almost 4 to 5 feet back and forth like a sail, and it's pounding on that cypress tree. And where the owners had lodged in a 2x4 to support it last year, that chipped off a huge piece of the cliff. I'm more concerned that right now it's an emergency removal. If it decided at the pace it's pounding on that tree, I would hate to see a chunk of that cliff come off by not acting as quick as possible. And I've been watching it deteriorate since I've been making these requests. So I also see a severe hazard there too. If part of that fence broke, it would kill someone. It's so heavy and so old. Even if it broke in some location, just part fell. So I'm going to ask for a very stern denial of any of this permit. Thank you.
Excuse me, Karen. So you say a violation. Do you know if it's a county building violation, CDP?
He has a violation for growing a hedge over 6 feet. Hedges are part of the fence ordinance. The fence ordinance restricts fences in the rear portion of first 20 feet are at 4 feet, the remaining are at 6. The owners at 101 7th Street deliberately grew the hedge to about 16 to 18 feet to block their neighbors' views.
So that is a county
It's a county
code violation?
enforcement, yes, and it's been pending. The applicant has not been fined. It's been going on for quite a while now, but he also hasn't resolved it, and it's become an unsightly. It's actually starting to block the views for if anybody wanted to go to Seacliff Court and look through the kind of between the houses and out and see the ocean. They've now blocked that view as well.
Oh, so you're talking ones at the north end of the property?
Yes,
Okay.
it's between the two houses.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the 2 houses on 7th Street. You're talking between the house on 7th and the house on Seacliff.
Between the 2 houses on 7th Street, there's a hedge that's growing. Yeah, but you're right, there's back there as well. Sorry, it's Hedge City over there.
All right. Leonard?
I'm going to start out by saying that allowing the fence in the right-of-way is a violation of the Coastal Act, and someone should appeal it to the Coastal Commission if the county approves it, because it limits coastal access by reducing the parking. And so while I agree with all the comments we heard, I'm going to pick one nit with Chris's comment where he says that the whole reason was whatever, I forget. No, that's most of the reason, but a part of the reason is to keep anybody from parking in front of their house. And that's simply not allowed by the Coastal Act. Now, about 10 or 12 years ago, Catherine Slater-Carter, Paul Perkovic, and I went to, I think the Planning Commission, but it may have been the Board of Supervisors when they were considering the ordinance on fences in the right-of-way. And we spoke against it in general terms, very strongly. And then even more strongly, we ask them, if you're still going to go forward with this, do not allow it in the coastal zone. And they ignored that too. But I think the council needs to have another agenda item and write another letter to the Board of Supervisors asking for the county ordinance regarding fences in the public right-of-way to be amended to completely ban them in the coastal zone. So I support all the actions the council is taking on this and ask you to agendize this other issue.
I want to mention or make very clear, this fence is parallel to 7th Street. It would not affect parking one way or the other because the guardrail will prevent any parking in that area.
Well, there's no guardrail in that section proposed
Well,
right now.
if we're successful on 4A, there will be a
Yeah.
guardrail all the way across. But if not, the 5-foot section is not enough to drive a car into, maybe a motorcycle. All right, any other public comment on this? All right, does anybody want to propose any changes to the letter based on what we've heard?
Okay, I have a question. I'm not sure, I think, Karen, you said you believe it should be completely denied, so, and I'm trying to understand what that would mean, and Lisa, why don't you tell me what the pros of, maybe explain it to me, and tell me what you think the pros and cons are of that.
Okay, these are comments to the planner. This is not on the staff report or the decision maker. First of all, keep that in mind. So are we saying that the owner of this property should not be allowed to have a fence in front of their house on their land? I don't think, I'm not inclined to go that far. I thought the design of the fence was good because it didn't block any views, no matter where it was put. It wouldn't have wind throw because it made of wire, very simple. And that I understand that conditions will change dramatically for this homeowner when the wall comes down, and they might feel the need for some extra boundary there in front of their house. And it seems to me that as long as it's on their property, they should be allowed to have that.
You wouldn't need a permit if you built it on this property, there would be no permit needed.
Well, that's fine then. I don't see there's any harm in our comments, and I would hesitate to go to that level of diving in that far and recommending that they not be allowed to have a fence there at all. Basically, our comments were requested by today, so if this letter isn't suitable, then we'll be late.
Well, I just wanted to understand what that meant, and so there's two issues in what you're saying. Is number one, we're basically, we're providing comments on
The early referral.
the early referral, right, okay. And number two, the fence is not going to be in the right of way.
We're asking that it be modified so that it's not in the right of way.
Right, okay, and it's not going to be obstructing any coastal views because it's going to be on their property, correct?
Right. So basically, if the county, if this then comes to the planning commission and they have made our requested changes, we could still object to it. And certainly if they have not made our requested changes, we will object to it. Like I say, this is just on the early referral.
This is just an early referral.
And I want to point out that I'm pretty sure a coastal development permit would be required here because it is a fence between the westmost paved road and the ocean, regardless of where it is in the right-of-way or private property.
Even, I mean, basically, the fact that they're applying for it leads me to think the county told them to apply for it, and therefore, why should we say they shouldn't have to, I mean, that sort of seems irrelevant, that we should have to say they don't need one.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could bring up the issue of biological contamination from treated redwood. Is it treated redwood or just treated?
Pressure treated.
Just pressure treated. We could bring that issue up. Again, if they build it on their own property, however, I'm not sure that we want to push that hard for fences on private property. Does anybody else have an opinion on that?
Just coming from a design review perspective, we know that views are not legally protected, and it does, I hear what Lisa's saying. No, I don't feel like my position is that they can't build any fence at all. But my position is that there seems to be a pattern here of, taking as much as can be taken, and reading the project description and the applicant's comments, a level of disingenuity that I don't appreciate. And that is disparaging the marine walkway as unpassable and no good, and when we know what that fence is there for. And so, if, I'm fine, I support the leisure as is, because I don't think we should be saying they can't build a fence on their property, a low fence that meets requirements. But that is not what they are asking for, and that really, has my fur up. I mean, they got their big fence taken away, and now they're still trying to keep the riffraff off of their front lawn.
But this isn't something that you could put in the letter.
No, that's what I'm saying, I support
Our
this.
fur is up.
I support this letter as is, because it says, locate the new fence within the private parcel, not in the public right-of-way.
And since this is a comment on the public right-of-way portion, I personally don't feel like whether they're in violation on a hedge or not is actually related to this. The county building department, planning department might. Does anybody else want to put anything about pending violations in this letter?
I have misgivings about bringing up separate issues, particularly the house addition that's on appeal at the Coastal Commission, because that was used as an excuse to delay this fence removal for years now, and so I would just like to focus on the...
The eye on the goal.
Yes,
Eye on the goal.
the eye on the goal.
All right.
With that in mind, I'd like to put a motion on the table.
Okay, I want to ask one more time, particularly in light of Leonard's earlier comments. Does anybody on the council want to offer any amendments to the letter? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll provide one. I would like to make a motion that we approve the letter as written.
Okay, here a second.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it carries 5-0. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Karen, for bringing those issues up. I do think it's appropriate to bring up yourself as an issue with the county that they're requesting a permit for a fence and they already have a fencing violation.
Oh, trust me,
I thought you would, but I think that's totally
And
appropriate.
also a proper design, there is a fence that a metal fence that they can install that would only require 8-foot, fence doesn't every 8 feet, which would really minimize damage to the foot, so.
Yeah, I think they're going to require the same number of posts either way, but I could be wrong.
No, it's just a different material. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks for coming.
All right, we'll move on to our final item on the regular agenda, 4C. This is on the Pillar Point RV Park. In particular, some of the coastal view, signing, lighting issues, and the public restroom. Again, this is Lisa. This is all Lisa tonight,
It's the Lisa Show.
for which we're grateful.
Yes, leave no stone unturned.
Oh, it works. I love it when it works.
Oh,
Okay.
wait,
More pictures, all right. This is to orient you. Bottom picture, 1972, top picture, present day. Things you can pick out here are the difference in the public coastal views. You can see in 72, the whole area, there was nothing between the highway, that was clear open coastal view from the highway all along there. And in the top picture, you can see all the greenery that's now blocking the view. Also, you can see the restroom there in both pictures, and the day use slot up in the upper picture on the right, and you can see the people parked out along the highway in the upper picture, as they habitually do now because of the price and the intimidating signs in the day use slot. Public coastal views from Highway 1. So there you have it. That's what it looks like. So the two top pictures I took today. The bushes are deteriorating, there's some openings now. You can see how they're all very sparse at the bottom. And so basically, where they're supposed to screen, they don't screen, they just screen the view up above. Another thing to note in this picture, that the whole fence line is at a significantly lower grade than the roadway. So even though the fence is roughly 6 feet tall, it's actually, as you look at it from the roadway, it's shorter than that. I'd say it's at least 3 feet lower than the highway. This one you can see, here's the blue water here, and then this is the sky. And so, okay, so this is this opening that, I don't know whether they took a tree out or the bushes died or whatever it is. But so you can see when the RV park's not always full, and there would be the view. You don't notice this as you're driving along. When you stop and look sideways, there it is. It's these are the shrubs that were planted originally, I guess. They're all bare at the bottom, and then the trees, of course, go up much higher. So the first section of the letter about public coastal views, it also brings up this issue of what a poor trade-off that you, to screen the RVs, and in the process you lose the whole public view. And yet on the west side, which these views from the beach and the coastal trail are also to be protected, there's nothing. And particularly this shot here coming south, where you have them hanging out over the, so you're like looking up at the undercarriage of these vehicles, and there's nothing here. I mean, you could plant some bushes that would at least grow up to hide some of that, and you know, some sort of balance between the east side and the west side. Then the day use lot, this is the sign I objected to: private property parking only, tow-away, etc. Very intimidating. And so nobody parks there, and these vehicles are, here's this trailer, this was there the other day, it's still there today, here's this coned off. These trucks are the trucks that haul in the fifth wheelers that are in the RV park. These aren't beach people. This relates to the RV park. So it's not being used the way it's supposed to. And this is another shot of the day use lot. This is an RV. It's not just parked there. It was there overnight, and then it's parked there all the next day. And that's not supposed to happen either. This is a couple years ago. You could see all these towing signs they used to have all over the place. They've taken those down, fortunately. There's only a couple left. And here's one of these light poles that we objected to. So this is the sign as you enter the RV portion here, and even for the RV people, they're supposed to be fully self-contained. There's no bathrooms, no public restroom anywhere. So the restroom building is locked. Whatever they do with it is not for the public. And so here's the light fixture. This is the one by the entrance that's particularly bright, unshielded fixtures. So those were the issues from our letter. Let's see if I've covered everything. Maybe best to just go to questions. Any questions on the letter?
Yes, I have a question. Who is the leasee on the RV park?
Well, before I answer that, I would like you to consider that the intro and the close of our letter, that what I'm hoping is to do a reset on our relationship with the Harbor District, and by extension, hope perhaps with the lessee. And that my intent here, and then the closing line, that we look forward to a productive discussion of solutions to these issues. And that, so I would like to keep this focused on the issues and on solutions. in a positive way, that hopefully going forward, we can have a better result than has happened in the past.
Okay.
So, I don't,
Can I
All right,
answer
let me
that?
ask you this, is the leasee listed in the CC list on
Yes.
this letter? Right, okay, I mean,
there, everybody that might be concerned is listed here, and once again, like I say, I'm hoping that there can be a dialogue and people can work, because some of these issues may not have a simple solution, particularly the restroom. I mean, even if they were to open it again, it's not ideally located for the day use slot, and County Parks has been interested in this issue, and Half Moon Bay as well, and this may be an interagency discussion.
well,
the-
I understand that, Lisa, but given the leasee and the leasee's history on the coast side, I think that is a major issue here.
Can I
Well,
comment?
let me, see, this gets off the focus. This, you're asking us to go and look at old woes and place blame. And I would like to leave that behind now and just focus on, these are the issues that concern us. What are our interests here? What are solutions to solve these problems? And leave personalities out of it, leave history out of it. Let's try for a reset. I plead with you.
All
All.
right.
Okay.
I think, in addressing your concern, the leasee, we don't lease, it's not our leasee. So I don't,
It's the public, it's San Mateo
It's
County.
the-
they have to go to the Harbor Commission. The Harbor Commission is
It's
the.
a special district within the San Mateo County.
Yes, but that's who has
I
the relationship with
understand.
the
Let
leasee.
Laura finish.
That's who has the relationship. We can't really demand that somebody do something with their leasee. We can only ask them to address the issue. And whoever they have to go to get the issue addressed is their problem. There's a hierarchy here. I mean, we can stamp our feet, and we can, point at all sorts of people, but the bottom line is that's not how business is done. So I just want to toss that out. That is, because otherwise we lose our credibility.
Oh, I'm not saying we should have a temper
So,
tantrum.
right. So I do want to point out, I'd like to try and maintain it, as good, as positive as we can. Various people have had various negative experiences with all kinds of people on the coast. And the more positive we keep it within reason, the more likely we are to be successful on this. So past history may or may not be a predictor of the future, but let's make a try from clean slate if we can.
I think if we want to go and negotiate or influence the Harbor Commission or anything like that, I think the tone is important. Rudeness or sweetness, which is going to get your result? It's just, it works both ways with personalities. I mean, if you feel offended or whatever by something that's happened and push back, then the other person may get their back up too and make the negotiation more difficult.
Dan, did you have something you wanted to say or ask about?
Yes, well, very familiar with this area. Thank you, Lisa. I think your thoughts here are excellent, right on line. I would like to make the comment that on the second page, when you talk about it may be also desirable to provide landscaping on the west side to break up the row of RVs and at least hide the wheels and undercarriages from the beach. From your picture, I would agree that something may be appropriate to be done here, but I'm not certain that landscaping is the answer. I think that it would just kind of hinder the use of the area. I think more appropriate might be some regulation of limiting, the overhang. It should not be allowed, these back of these RVs are, 8 feet behind at the wheel, and it's, just kind of limit that. And I think that that might be a better, just because of, I know how it's used, and I'm not certain that, from the user perspective on the upper level, the focus is usually out to the ocean, so I don't know that it's critical. I think it might be an olive branch to ask them to kind of limit the overhang and not have things. I have seen almost like little decks, mini decks built on there. I don't think there was ever a permit taken for those, but the spirit of just kind of respecting that area, I think, is more better way to.
All right, do you want to offer a specific amendment to the letter?
Can I explain my reasoning for that?
Sure.
It's a suggestion, it's pointed out in the pictures, this major discrepancy from the treatment on the east side, which blocked all public views, and on the west side, which protects the views of the RV people, and doesn't consider at all how that looks, and the balance there. And so basically in the discussions, when this comes up, it's like if the RV people don't want even a tiny bush to so much as hide the wheel, it's very important to them, well then, okay, let's take all the trees down instead. I mean, it's a discussion, and these are things to consider. The overhang, they're still on their property. I don't really think you can tell them they can't overhang like that. This is just a visual thing.
Okay.
So back to my question, would you like to offer a specific amendment to the letter?
No, I think it's going to be fine the way it is. It really hits all the points.
All right. Chris, do you want anything else you want to say about it?
I guess I understand we're raising several issues with the RV park to bring it to the attention of the new Harbor Commission, with the idea that, they will take notice of this. But I guess I just feel that there's, we hope that the time is right to work together, find and implement solutions, and we look forward to productive discussion of solutions. But there's no specifics, like, are we asking for a meeting? How are we asking them to put this on the agenda? Like, how do we actually get them to do something, to take this on, to have it be an issue in their list of priorities? Because I hear what you're saying. I understand all of that. I said at the retreat, decorum and professionalism is very important to me as we conduct our business and the other entities on the coast side. And so I'm not advocating a temper tantrum or spear throwing or anything like that. However, I feel that this Pillar Point RV park is becoming a kind of a problem, and the number one issue for me is the public restroom. When we've got documented and just foul conditions on both sides of the road within a quarter mile of these restrooms, and these restrooms are being kept locked even to the people that are paying money to stay at this place, something needs to be done about that. And more than just saying, hey, it's an issue, I don't know like what it needs to be done other than, kind of saying, hey, why aren't these restrooms unlocked? Why are people going to the bathroom right next to the ocean? And we have these reports of fecal matter and people are getting all upset about that, and yet not one word have I seen in the newspaper or anything about the fact that there's a public restroom there, built with public funds, owned by a public district, that is locked 24/7. And people are going to the bathroom in the bushes, and it's washing into the ocean and across the street in the Burnham Strip. And I mean, we've got a public restroom right there. So all of these issues are important. But I mean, this is now a public health issue. And so I'm just wondering, like, do you feel that this is going to get their attention such that it might be an agenda item for them in the future?
This issue has been percolating, boiling, basically, for over a decade. And everybody is well aware of it, and the Harbor District is well aware of it, and the previous majority on the Harbor District was unwilling to do anything differently. And we now have a new majority on the, well, I don't want to say majority, that's premature. We have two new members, and so this, I thought this was timely to bring to them at this time to look at it again, because they've looked at it before and it hasn't worked. And our interests have not been addressed. So that's why it seemed like the time to bring it forward now, and to bring it forward gently, because like I say, there's new commissioners there and there's no reason to berate them for past history.
Nobody's saying berate.
Or even set us timeline or make demands, or even that. I think that this is, we're reaching out. They have a lot on their plate right now, a lot of things that are changing. They might not be able to get to it this month or next month, but it's laid out here, and we will follow up, go to meetings, bring it up, and this is the introduction to it, and that's how I looked at it.
I hear what you're saying, and I support the letter. These are all great points, and I support this letter, and I'm willing to let this letter be sent, or I'm not willing, but I support this letter being sent, and hope that, but this bathroom situation is now like way up on my radar, and when I see comments from people on the Harbor Commission about issues that are
So Chris, can I,
downstream.
sorry, I'm going to cut you off a little bit here. Do you have a specific amendment to offer to strengthen the part you're most concerned about, or do you think it's strong enough?
I will say, I'll say no to both. But so no to both, yes.
That's a valid answer. All right.
I think it's important to keep in mind that when we write a letter, that is never the end of it. Follow through is needed.
Yeah.
And it may take years.
Can I add that we can't make anybody do anything?
An elected advisory council, yes, I get
I'm
that.
also gonna add that I was on the council when we addressed this same stuff before, okay? And it was in the newspapers, and I can tell you over the years, tons of people have gone to meetings. So it is very exciting that we have some new people on the Harbor Commission. So I think I'm speaking for you. But I mean, when I read this letter, I felt like, oh, okay, once again, we're gonna start, and probably it will be received well. So be hopeful yet. As you can see, Lisa does bring stuff back over and over again, so I have faith
Okay,
that,
I will be hopeful.
Dave, can I add something?
Sure, go ahead.
So, one thing I missed, that on the light pollution, I'm keenly aware of, I think what anybody would notice, looking in that direction on a typical evening, it's like the North Star is above that. But what I'm just reading here is consistent with other parking lot lighting at the harbor. I think that this area is a very unique situation. So I don't know that it's a good idea to start that conversation. I would suggest that we strike that up to the first comma and just say the community would prefer I would add low-level shielded downward directed lighting at the park. It's a really unique spot. You have beyond, you have that harbor view, which is what everybody, comes here to see. And so I think that it could be, yes, a lot could be done with the lighting, and I don't want to pigeonhole into thinking being consistent with other.
What are you thinking of with that reference, consistent with the rest of the Harbor District? Because their lighting is shielded and downward directed.
I don't think that area is the right area for a typical type consistent with their other parking lot lighting. This is a very unique.
So you think the open globe is fine?
No, I did not say that. I
Okay,
did not
so
say that.
I think what Lisa is after is
The current lighting situation is
But
problematic.
So if the lighting were changed to be the same as the lighting in the harbor parking lot by the launch ramp, I think most people would be ecstatic compared to what it is today. Are you looking for something significantly different than that?
Well, I don't, recently, a lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed, but they recently upgraded to LED lighting, and that
Okay, so-
whole.
So, yeah.
Hold on.
No,
So
Dan,
I'm just careful.
That's
saying
another whole
consistent.
topic, so I'd
The
really
light
like to
level
hold
has
this letter.
increased, so now
Okay.
the pier is the focal point. Okay, so you've lost the background. So I just want to be careful suggesting to be consistent with the other.
What I see when I drive by on Highway 1 is all the lighting in that huge asphalt parking lot, the trailer lot and the lot, whatever all those lots are. And nowhere driving by there do you ever see the direct rays of those lights. They're
Right.
very well shielded, and where the light is needed, you can see, and it doesn't bother anybody driving by on the highway.
Right, it's the lights on the pier and the fishing boats that are the problem. Actually, the lights on the fishing boats are far more offensive than those on the pier, because I used to stare right down at them out my front window.
Yeah, well, those are temporary, they come and go, but I'm just talking about permanent lighting. And, remember, the light that shines down, also, some of it also reflects back up, and I don't
Okay,
think we need a lot of lighting.
so the suggested change was to strike the part about consistent with the rest of the Harbor District lighting and just say low downward facing lights.
Yes.
Is that the change you feel comfortable making, Lisa?
Sure.
Okay,
So you're talking about striking those from the count?
You're-
I believe so. I don't have the final copy in front of me.
I would like to prefer low-level shielded, downward directed lighting.
What does that mean? Low-level light, low-level height of the pole? I mean, we don't need to get into the exact details here. This is just putting out
Okay,
the
that's
issue
fine.
of the light is an issue.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll
I
go
mean,
with that, yes.
basically, the only near-term thing we're asking for is to swap out that bright one by the opening.
What I'm trying to convey is that you can have safe lighting without having the brightness. You don't need that super brightness.
So this is the conversation that would happen when
That's
we
fine.
bring up the
I
issue,
understand.
we have a problem with the lighting, and then we get together, well, what are we gonna do with the lighting? Don't have to figure that all out now.
Okay.
There is another whole set of debates happening about the street lighting. Okay, so we have a small amendment to the letter. It's acceptable to Lisa. Does anybody else have any other changes they want to make? Okay, then we're on to public comment. So Leonard, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I appreciate this a lot, although I also think that it's, see, how long was Tucker on the board? It's about 16 years overdue. But the general manager's gone, the two miserable commissioners are gone. I think that something good will happen now, and the new majority on the Harbor Commission will leverage this letter to take appropriate action. I do want to ask for some modifications to the letter. Half Moon Bay has a hedge ordinance. I didn't know the county had included hedges in the fence ordinance. I'm gonna have to go pull the fence ordinance and read that. Half Moon Bay has a hedge ordinance that says, except the staff will not give you a copy. If you go down to City Hall, they refuse to give you a copy of it. They say they can't find it. But what it says, I was told this by a planning commissioner a decade ago, what Half Moon Bay's hedge ordinance says is you cannot do with a hedge what you're not allowed to do with a fence. In other words, you can't grow a solid hedge taller than you're allowed to build a fence. So I object to the 8-foot references that are in two places in the letter here. And I ask you to change the language to say that the landscaping cannot exceed the height of the fence. Now, before the current lessee got that franchise, there was a deteriorating chain link fence that did almost nothing in terms of view blockage. And the fence there isn't even necessary at all, period. There's no reason for there to even be a fence there, because there's a huge drainage swale that's going to stop the kids from running onto the highway. So when the current lessee remodeled that in 1998, he put in a new fence with black slats all the way down, including on the south side of the driveway. And we at least got the black slats taken out of the section south of the driveway, but I believe they're still there on the north section. The black slats have to come out also, so that you can see through the chain link fence to the ocean when the RVs aren't there. I don't know if you want to try and address that in this letter or not. It's probably too complex of an issue to bring it up right now. You know, we can follow up with that issue later. But the shrubbery, you really need to take a really, really strong position that the shrubbery must not be allowed to grow taller than the fence. And so that's in the third line of the paragraph under public coastal views, and then again on the last line on the first page. One thing that's missing from the list under Surfers Beach Day Use Parking Lot, there used to be an outdoor shower there, basically a shower head on a pole for the surfers to wash the sand off after they came out of the ocean. So that shower needs to come back also. So the things that are missing, the trash cans disappeared, the picnic tables disappeared, the water fountain disappeared, the restroom was locked, and the shower was taken out. So 3 of those 5 are mentioned in the letter, I think, or 4 out of 5. So you need to include the shower also, and the trash cans. I think I miscounted. So the trash cans and the shower should be added to that list there. And to try and go where Dan was not quite successful, the light standards, the brightness of the lighting needs to be reduced, starting with spray painting black the one that's out in front there, or just shooting it out with a sniper rifle. But the height of the standards needs to be reduced to fence height. There's no excuse for the standards to be higher than the fence. And for those people who think that light standards need to be tall, Scott Boyd, when we were down at a Coastal Commission meeting in Monterey, took me to a place that he knew somebody who worked in Moss Landing, and they have light standards in the parking lot that you can reach standing on the ground if you're a taller guy. So the height of the light standards needs to be reduced. By the way, the light standards on Lot C are 40 feet high. You can see them above the highway. That's how ridiculous they are. So I ask you to explicitly say that the height of the light standards needs to be reduced, and the brightness, and they need to be shielded so the light is directed only downward. So overall, I think it's a great letter. It'd be a little better if you incorporate the changes I'm asking for, and thank you for doing this. And I also like to point out to Chris, one of the newly elected harbor commissioners is a marine biologist, so we just have to talk to her a little bit, not very much, and I think she'll run with the restroom issue.
Any other public comment?
Did you get the one from Karen? She just wanted.
Yeah, I got it.
She was wondering if you
Her
could-
comment was, perfect solution, Lisa. That's probably not solution.
Does it say go?
Perfect solution.
Okay.
So, kind of an extra layer there from Karen. Nice, yes.
All right.
Your solution has soul to it. Is it?
So, Lisa, is reducing the height of the hedges along the highway acceptable to you to put in the letter? I don't know what the actual legal height is, but we could just say.
We have no hedge ordinance. This is hearsay. I'm reluctant to put that forward as the basis of something we request.
Okay.
The 2 references, the 2 times it says 8 feet in the letter, the first one is just referring to an actual document. The approved landscape plan called for a row of 8-foot tall California bayberry shrubs. That's
Just
fact, that's
Yeah,
fact.
We're not gonna change that.
And the image, it says here, the attached images show that any landscaping more than a foot or two above the existing fence unnecessarily blocks public coastal views. Okay, so the fence is set below the grade of the highway. And so I think that saying a maximum of 8 feet is adequate, because if you stand on the highway, then that puts you like 5 feet above, the fence would be relatively like 5 feet. I took the picture from my car, Leonard, that's what it shows. I just think that this kind of fine tuning, the Harbor Commission, or where, this
Yeah,
is.
I agree.
It's good
Okay.
enough, it's
That's
good
fine.
enough. What else? Trash cans, I see trash cans there, I don't.
Oh, they are there?
Yeah, there are trash cans there. The shower was taken out, they said, because of erosion. And what I see there now is a water fountain spigot, which I assume is turned off, and perhaps it had the same issue, but I guess I thought I had this covered when I said, okay, I didn't go into the discussion too much of the day-use parking lot. So where I said here that the $10 fee had discouraged the public from using it, that it's too high for visitors who may stay only briefly and for a destination without typical amenities required in the lease, such as restroom, water fountain, and picnic tables. So basically what this leads into is, the discussion is either provide the amenities or reduce the fee, one or the other here. Those are the details that, we're just, like I say, this is introductory, and to lay out every specific amenity on an issue of, that requires plumbing, which I do really think that Half Moon Bay and county parks may, and, this isn't gonna just, it doesn't fit with the tone of the letter, I think, to specifically tell the Harbor Commission everything they need to do and get it done by Friday, and it's just not how I perceive it. It's not my way, I'm sorry if that seems intransigent.
All right, I did also receive via email, I think most of the council members did, but not all, a letter from Lenny Schultz addressing this issue. I'm going to attempt to summarize it. Some of the same points were points that Leonard made. She's concerned about the ocean view being blocked, specifically the height of the cypress trees, the entire row along there, which Lisa has addressed in the letter. She wanted the bushes to be no more than fence height, the same issue that Leonard raised. Lighting, she's concerned about the glare and that it affects drivers as well as the community. I think we've caught that. Public access, doesn't want the excess autos of those in the RV lot using it. I think that's sort of covered by the public lot reference, but maybe not.
By what reference?
The references to the public parking lot, the pictures. And then the bathroom. So I think we've got the bathroom covered.
The images are part of the letter, they go with the letter.
That's right, that's sort of what I assumed. So I just want to make sure that I mention that since it did arrive to public comment. All right, so Lisa, I agree with your explanations. I don't think we should change anything about the height of the bushes along Highway 1. Does anybody have any other specific amendments they want to offer? We've got the one already. If not, I'm going to close public comment on this and ask for a motion.
Can I add just one quick thing? Lisa, would you be, if I changed, would you be open to putting low-intensity shielded downward directed lighting? Instead of low level, just low intensity. I think that might be just a subtle kind of nudge to give them something to chew on and during their discussion.
the fact that it says here in the near term, dimmer bulbs could be installed in existing
But
fixtures?
we want long-term, low intensity.
Well, right, but if we're asking for dimmer bulbs now, and then a final solution, doesn't it stand to reason that we would want dimmer bulbs to be part of the final solution as well?
Right. But having said that, does changing the word low level to low intensity actually make,
Well, low
not
level
cover
isn't
what
in,
you care
low
about?
level isn't in the letter yet. I assumed what he meant was shorter poles.
Low intensity,
I think he was talking about brightness. Am I correct?
yes.
Do you want to read that sentence as you now think you have it?
The community would prefer shielded downward directed lighting at the RV park instead of the glare from unshielded fixtures on tall poles at this view-sensitive shoreline location. In the near term, dimmer bulbs could be installed in the existing fixtures. In other words, don't wait to make them dimmer, change the bulbs out now.
I really.
Of course.
Okay.
Everybody else has.
This letter, this is my feeling when I read this, and I've been through this on a council before, the same topic, okay? What we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's like broad brush, here are the areas that are really, really important. I mean, do you really believe, like, if we got this letter, would we put this on our agenda with, which way did they want those lights? Let me get that in the agenda wording. Oh, how many lights? I mean, you know, come
Okay.
on. It'll be their decision, so this for us is,
I'll still support the letter if you don't want to make that change.
Okay, so we're almost at adjournment. Can I hear a motion, please?
yes, I have a motion. I have a motion that we approve the letter, but I don't know with what changes.
With the amendments that Lisa
Dan's
just read.
amendment on leaving out, we
The
left
first
out the
phrase.
first phrase of the light pollution paragraph.
With Dan's amendment.
So is that the only amendment?
That is the only one I've heard made.
Yes.
Okay. The others were discussed.
Can I have a second? Oh, I'm not the chair.
Yes, I will second that.
All right.
I
All in
apologize.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes, thank you very much, Lisa.
My
Eloquent
apologies.
defense. All right, council activity, I'm going to, because Nicholas needs to leave at 9, I'm going to suggest we reorder and do future agendas before council activity.
Oh, no.
Does anybody?
I can stay. I'm
Okay.
just packing up. Don't worry about it.
All right.
I'm in Oslo.
You said 9, you really meant 9:30.
All right, we will keep
It's
the
still,
current
it's still
order.
3 hours earlier than what it used to be.
Council activity, Dan, anything? Chris, I know you have a few things.
On February 5th, San Mateo County Parks Mini Parks Committee will hold its final workshop meeting at 2 p.m. We're fine-tuning a policy recommendation document for review by the Parks and Rec Commission later that day on February 5th at 4 p.m. Parks and Rec will review our document and either recommend approval by the Board of Supervisors or send it back to us for further tinkering. I don't really have a feeling right now whether it's going to be approved or not. It's still a working document. We had till yesterday to provide comments on the initial draft. So I think there's still a little tinkering, but we've set aside 2 hours on the 5th before the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. So hopefully we can get it to the point where we've got a solid document to present to Parks and Rec Commission. On the 22nd, last Thursday, I participated in the county homeless census. I was able to survey the El Granada district, which ranged from Seahorse Ranch to Miramar on the west side of Highway 1 and Miramar to Ember Ridge on the east side of Highway 1. Along with my homeless volunteer, we drove every public road in the district. We saw no individuals, but did see 11 vehicles parked on public streets that clearly had people living in them. This census is conducted every 2 years. The homeless volunteer that I worked with did comment several times as we were driving around that it seemed odd to her that January was the time to do this census because there are more homeless people on the coast in the summer, which kind of makes sense. So when I am providing feedback to the county about this, I think one comment I might suggest is consider a spring or a fall census date as somewhere in the middle between summer and winter, specifically because this person who is homeless that I was working with you know, not trying to convince me anything, just kept kind of scratching her head and saying, I just don't know why we're doing this in January. So, but I was heartened that we only found 11 vehicles, but also saddened that there were 11 vehicles. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, Laura, anything?
No.
Lisa, anything? All right, I attended the general plan update meeting at the Heffernan City Council, which was the presentation to the City Council of what had been presented at the Planning Commission the month before, but with significant updates to the maps and more extensive maps. A number of people spoke to it. One of the things they dropped from all the alternatives was the streets paralleling Highway 1 and providing bypasses on Highway 1. They had also shrunk some of the commercial areas. One of the plans removed the commercial area next to Francis Beach. There were still a number of concerns about various plans expressed by people who spoke, but by and large, I think they had moved in the direction that people had been asking for. So there will be a preferred alternative coming up next. That probably will not be for several months. The consultant had also done quite a bit more work on areas of biological sensitivity and areas that have various restrictions on them, which was one of the issues that the Committee for Green Foothills and Sierra Club and various residents have brought up. So this is going to have significant impacts on the Midcoast, whatever is decided. So I will keep following it.
Can I ask you a question about part of what you said?
Sure.
You mentioned preferred alternatives. Is that preferred by the vacant property owners, preferred by the current residents, or preferred by the city staff?
It is supposed to be a synthesis of all of those. Given the diametrically opposed desires presented and pretty strongly held, it's clearly not going to be preferred by everybody. In fact, it will probably be preferred by nobody, but that's the way of compromise.
But don't we get to, won't they get to, not us, but comment?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there will be
yeah.
many, Dante Hall was very clear that this is not going to be complete in 2015 and perhaps not even in 2016.
And who is Dante Hall?
He is the Community Development Director for the City of Half Moon Bay.
What does that mean?
He is basically the chief planning official.
Oh, really?
That's the new title that the county started this, I don't know, a decade ago.
It's the same.
Called planning director.
It's the same title that Steve Monowitz has in the county.
Oh, I see. Okay. They just take community to it.
One thing maybe you didn't pick up on, or maybe I picked it up wrong, but there were people talking about keeping Highway 1 from 4 lanes all the way up to Frenchman's Creek. So all through the Terrace area up to Frenchman's Creek, instead of being 2 lanes and then it goes to 4 lanes, just as you begin to get to Strawflower Village, just a little bit before that. Thinking about making that 4 lanes all the way up because there's space on either side.
Yep.
The bad news about that is we've got the same issue going on up at Pacifica. And, you know, with 6 lanes, 4 lanes, we're going to be squeezed in the middle. So, you know, I can't say when, but probably in my lifetime, you know, we'll be pushing for 4 lanes through the Midcoast. So I think all of us should worry about that. And even though it's the general plan for Half Moon Bay, anything to do with Highway 1 affects us, and we're allowed to comment on it. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
And
show
yes.
up, scream and yell, throw your bodies down, whatever you want, Chris.
All the alternatives suggested 4 lanes all the way, where exactly they stop varied, and some of the proposals called for 6 lanes in the stretch, basically
Crazy.
from Main Street down through various places, stopping along the south Main boundary, Poplar, Redondo, somewhere in there.
My question is this, you're attending these, so will we get any, how shall I say, maybe you could come back to the next meeting with when and where it would be appropriate for us to comment.
Yes, as soon as the next meeting is scheduled, I'll announce it.
Will the council be commenting on this?
We certainly could. I had not intended to put it on the agenda, but I'm perfectly willing to. What is the sense of the council? Would you like it as an agenda item?
I think it should be, but
Yes.
I hate to rush to try to have some final letter in one discussion. I think it should be.
Oh, no, this is not necessarily a letter from us. I think everybody should be making comments independently, but if there is a desire for us to make a comment on behalf of the Midcoast or the council, preferably the Midcoast, we can certainly do that.
Well, I was seeing it, excuse me.
Okay.
I was seeing it separate until I hear, like, oh, that's Half Moon Bay. Until I heard Bill's comment. Now I'm thinking that then our community needs to really be made aware of what's happening, because we're doing good to get, people are busy, they don't even focus on here, so.
Right, so this is tied in with the congestion management study that Nicholas talked about. It's tied in with Connect the Coast. City of Half Moon Bay, for those not aware of it, is the lead agency in the discussions with Caltrans on the Highway 92 corridor as well, which of course impacts most of the Midcoast. So I will feed the website information to Lisa, and she can put that in the minutes. I strongly recommend everybody look at it. All right, we are on to future agendas. So, Midcoast Parklands Access and Parking Study, we saw a preliminary copy to make comments on it. They are hoping to get the draft finished in the next week or so, and then we will schedule a meeting, so sometime in February. We heard that Connect the Coast side is now probably out in April. So the feeling that I should tentatively put April 11th there.
April 8th.
April 8th, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Lost track. And then we have so we have that as congestion management, I'm sorry, Connect the Coast side. Congestion management, what was the suggested date? March 11th?
What is congestion management? Is that the
Crossings
crossings?
and
Crossings,
left turn lanes.
medians, and left turn lanes.
It's the same thing.
I know, it's.
Coast-
It's actually,
Yeah,
it's all the
there's
same.
two separate grants and sets of people. There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, there is overlap, but yeah, so March 11th will be, I think the name, March 11th will be the crossings and turn lanes. March 25th will be Plan Princeton,
Right.
and April 8th will be Connect the Coast side.
Okay, and I may juggle the April one 2 weeks out, depending on what Marlene tells me and the venue.
And let me know if you need anything from me.
Yeah, I will let you know. All right. Does anybody else have anything to go on an agenda? at
Can I
this
just
point?
ask just a quick question? Connect the Coast, which one is the one that's initiated by the California Coastal Commission?
The
Connect the Coast
Simcoe County LCP, you mean?
Yes,
That's Connect the Coast side.
okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm still committed to bringing a coast-side medical services item to the MCC agenda, but I'm waiting until the AG, Attorney General makes their decision on whether the sale is, they're gonna approve the sale of the prime or not. They said that they would have a decision in mid-February. I don't see any point in having an agenda item before then.
Do you want me to put it on as TBD or just keep it in the back of my head?
Let's put it TBD, because I'm glad Nick was here. I definitely want you to hear that I'm not satisfied with the county's position on Seton Coast side. So I'm not like going after the county, but I do want to have an agenda item. We have Prime and County and see what are your guys' plans for the future here,
All right.
and have the public be able to hear and comment.
All right, so I will see if I can fit that in April then, and if not, or we may actually have it in May.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks.
I believe we are at the end of our agenda. Do I hear the motion
Motion.
to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.